But really, it starts with the mindset, right? You need to know. I keep coming back to this because it's so important, right? And I see your logo behind you, right? And it's a
Mm-hmm.
topographical map. But what I see is those dotted lines. In those dotted lines, I'm visualizing like the path from point A to point B.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you know where you are and you know where you want to end up, and you just every day move some amount from point A to point B,
Mm-hmm.
like
You're
it's
eventually going to get there.
amazing. You're gonna
Well,
get there.
is fear holding you back from unlocking your next big opportunity? On today's episode, I sit down with Matt Dubin, an entrepreneur and accomplished attorney whose journey highlights facing challenges and transforming others' doubts into opportunities. After shifting his business perspective and investing in himself, he successfully took his practice, the Dubin Law Firm, to over 8 figures annually. Matt's story reminds us that our most significant opportunities often lie on the other side of rejection and by taking action. His ability to confront limiting beliefs, embrace mentorship, and visualize success proves that with the right mindset and determination, no obstacle is insurmountable. Get ready to be inspired by Matt Dubin's journey of turning challenges into the kindling required to ignite his career on this episode of Navigating No. Dude, thank you so much for coming on. I'm very honored that you would jump on with me because you are not only a mentor to me, but a great friend, but you're like an older brother than me, even though we're almost the same age. So thank you for doing this.
Older, hey, yeah, no, I am older, and right back at you. You're like a younger brother to me, so I'm happy to be here doing this with you.
Well, I'm super excited because I've known you. I think we did the math. It's at least 15 years that I've known you, not only as in the personal training arena, but also as just a mentor. And I feel like you're part of my confidence team. You're one of those people that has always supported me, my beliefs, and like pushing me past my limits, my comfort zone, and really making me do more than what I thought I could. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for always being that person for me. And I wanted to hit on that because I want the audience to know how special you are in terms of your ability to set goals and go after every goal that you've ever achieved, because you've been my support system, my greatest cheerleader with my goals. And I want to know how you've kind of achieved those. So can you tell our audience more about you?
Sure. Well, I grew up in suburban New York. Um, I eventually went to Yale University. There's a story behind that. I went to community college for 2 years and then transferred to Yale. Worked as a paralegal in Manhattan for a couple of years and then moved to Seattle in '92 to go to law school at UW. Graduated in '95, worked for a lawyer for like 2 years. And then that's a fun no story too, because my boss lost a really big case and couldn't pay me anymore. And so that was the kind of impetus for me to go off on my own and start my own law practice. I worked by myself completely solo for 9 years. And now we've grown to around 75 people with 4 offices in the kind of greater Seattle area.
Well, you have certainly scaled your business, right? But
For sure.
it didn't start like that. And I knew you before you even started hiring all of these employees. And I can tell you that I knew your feelings and your fear of scaling and what risk you were taking to do so. And I think, but you've taken that and always been able to apply it in anything that you've ever done, whether that is scaling your business with the law firm or following some of your passions or being involved with your family. And so it's like, I think it's wonderful that you're able to do that. Have you always been that way since you were a kid, or?
Maybe in some ways, but it's funny, like in thinking about coming on and having this conversation with you, I've thought about things that have held me back in life. And it really it has been fear, right? So my parents got divorced when I was very young. When I met my wife and was dating and we moved in together, like I knew she was the one. for a long time, but I was afraid to ask her to marry me because, the example I've had of a marriage ended in divorce.
Mm.
And, you know, offices where I had worked, where I'd been an employee, particularly law offices, they tended to be pretty toxic. There was a lot of yelling, there was a lot of unhappiness and dysfunction. And when I had my own business and it was just me, I was afraid to hire people because my experience with particularly law firms was that it's an unhappy, toxic environment. I was also afraid of being responsible for other people's livelihood. And
Absolutely.
what
You're
if
the
I,
leader. You're the boss.
right, what if I
Yeah.
couldn't do it? They're depending on me, and it's
Yeah.
easier to have nobody depending on you, right? So
Yeah.
these fears, these limiting beliefs actually held me back for meaningful amounts of time. So I guess the answer to your question is no. That you know, I always at points in my life I knew what I wanted, and
Mm-hmm.
throughout my whole life, when I made up my mind, this is something that I want, then I feel like I was unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it took a long time, maybe until I had my child, right? When I had my son, I was 40. And there was definitely a mind shift around that time that those limiting beliefs, those fears are useless. They don't really help, they don't serve any purpose, and they only hold me back. And so I think really in the last 15 years, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
around the time that I've known you, um, I really have tried to apply that mindset to everything that I do. And I guess we'll get into the mindset a little bit more.
Yeah. I think that you're a lifetime learner too. It's like you realize that like let's call it that imposter syndrome kind of set into you and you didn't believe in yourself or you didn't think that you could do something. But if you set that goal, you kept making traction towards it every time. Speaking of traction, that was a book that you actually turned me on to.
Mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm,
and it's like I think you're a lifetime learner and
yeah,
you continuously improve your skill set. And I think being able to get through some of those barriers in your life, you just know that if you just keep moving forward one step at a time, you eventually get there. And even though it's scary and you feel like, oh, maybe I'm not the best person for this or I'm not good enough for this, you still stay the path and you've always achieved your goal, but it just might take a little longer than it might somebody else, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's so much to unpack in all that, right? I mean, for me, the most important thing is you need to know what your goals are. And for me, somebody asked me the question probably, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago,
It
what
wasn't
do
me.
you what do you want? No, it wasn't you. It wasn't you. But somebody asked me, what do you want? And I couldn't really answer. Right. And then when I tried to answer, my answer was something like, I want more.
Mm.
Right. More,
Not vivid
more.
at all. You had no like specifics. It was just
Right.
more. Right.
Right. I want more respect. I want more success. I want more money. I want more, whatever it is. But more isn't a goal. More is at best, it's a direction.
Mm.
And it that doesn't work. It doesn't work. So he's the one who told me, he narrowed it down for me. He asked me, what does your dream house look like? And I didn't know. I had no idea. I had no picture in my mind what my dream house looked like. He said, is it a rambler? Is it 3 stories? Is it in the mountains? Is it on the ocean? Does it have a big garage or circular driveway? And he said, if you don't know what your dream house looks like, you could drive right past it
Mm.
and not even notice. And it's the same in life. So, I mean, to me, I'm kind of skipping ahead, right?
Mm.
But this is the basis, I think, of all the success that I've had, whether it's professionally or personally, is to get really, really specific about what you want and then
Love
be
that.
relentless about always moving towards that goal.
Mm.
Whatever obstacles come up, whatever seems to be standing in the way, just to never give up.
Well, and I think we talk about the vividness, right? And it's like in meditation, when in Japan in martial arts, it was like your ability to actually mentally, vividly picture the trees and what color their leaves are and how big they are. And that is where your mind starts to focus. And so what I'm hearing you say is that when you set a goal, you now, because of having that conversation, you set that specific goal, but you have a vivid picture of what that looks like.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's as if it. So, it's kind of woo woo, the whole like manifestation
Yeah.
thing, but like I really believe in it. And when I set a goal, and when and I look, the goal setting is a skill, and it's an art, right? I
Mm.
mean, you need to set goals that are achievable, but you need to set goals that are ambitious enough that it's a stretch,
It
right? I mean,
challenges you.
I heard somebody say that if your goals don't make the people around you laugh, almost in ridicule,
They're
then
not
they're
big
not
enough.
ambitious enough, right?
Perfect. Perfect.
But you need to be able to get there, right? So they're ambitious, they're bold, audacious goals. But once I set that goal and I know that it's something that I can achieve, it becomes real. It's not just that I can vividly picture it in my mind, it's that it already exists. It just hasn't manifested yet in this world. So this was an issue, with my family, with my wife, when I had a new law practice and we were struggling to pay the bills and going into debt, and year
Hmm.
after year scrapping and working hard and growing. And in my mind, like, we've already made it. Like, we're a success. And
Hmm.
but in her mind, like, there's no money in the bank, and how are we going to pay these bills? And maybe you need to like go and find a job somewhere and get a steady paycheck because this. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, it's right there, and we just need to go get it.
Well, and that, so that's not only having a vivid goal for yourself, but the ability to communicate that to your spouse, to your
Yeah.
friends. And that is a whole different ball game, right? It's like, for me, I'm like, I want to be a keynote speaker. I want to write a book. I want to meet Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like all of these things that I want to go do, they're in my mind, even if they're vivid, the ability to communicate that to the people that you love or that support you or are worried about those bills being paid, that's a harder sell sometimes. How did you work through that?
Well, it has to be authentic, right? And that's the thing. It's not like I'm trying to persuade you something that I have any doubt about myself. It's this absolute conviction with every fiber of my being that this, not only this can happen, but that the outcome is inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you have so much certainty, and you have not just that vivid picture of the outcome, but you have a roadmap, right? You know where you are, you know where you're headed, and then like you have this roadmap. So it's not like I never felt the need to persuade anybody that what I'm doing makes sense
Mm-hmm.
because we're going to achieve this goal. It's just more, you live in that reality, like this is happening, and come for the ride with me because it's going to be fun.
Well,
And
and I was going to
yeah,
say
yeah,
that
go
it
ahead.
helps that Beth is on your side. She believes in you. And like for my wife, Heidi, she is 100% supportive of me too. And it does help to have that support system that does believe in you and gives you that opportunity to follow your dreams and your passions, even though it's difficult sometimes to communicate your dreams, even if they're vivid and you have that conviction, like I'm going to achieve this. But it's like to have that support system that is unwavering. I feel blessed to have that. I know you feel the same way.
For sure. But I mean, the people around you have their own fears, right? And their own personal dramas. And, sometimes you can take that on too. And I mean, Beth has always loved me and supported me. But for a long time, particularly in the early years, she had her own fear about um, financial
Mm-hmm.
insecurity. and just normal things. And
It
it's
is
so
normal,
much.
and that is normal. That is totally normal. Like I think I think we need everybody to hear that it's like we're not alone. We all have these feelings of anxiety and stress and fear of not having enough in our bank account, and then being able to communicate that. And it's like it's taking that chance, that stepping outside of that comfort zone is very, very scary sometimes.
And it's not always easy, right, for the other person to hear, well,
Hmm.
but we already have lots of money in the bank in my mind, so we're okay,
Yeah.
right? And that, but that doesn't pay the bills. But there was a dramatic shift, I think, after going through a lot of like scary times, and it was mostly like financial, because a growing business is hard, and we didn't really do it the right way. I mean, we liquidated all our savings and our IRAs. We put everything we had into the business. We ran up credit card debt. So, I mean, there was a lot of uncertainty
Hmm.
around it. But at some point, going through enough of those scary moments where, oh my gosh, how are we going to pay the bills? And then being able to do it. I think she also had a mental shift. She said, you know what? Like every time we're back against the wall, you always make it work. And I'm going to choose to believe in you unless you tell me that I need to be worried. Then I'm going to be confident, and I'm going
Yeah.
to be on this journey, and we're all in, right? And that switch from her, it gave
Relieved
me,
you.
it did, it unburdened me, right? it,
100%.
it unleashed that i don't
Yes.
need I don't need to justify every step and every decision, because she believes in me as much as I believe in myself. And that was tremendously powerful for me to kind of get to the next level.
You can focus all your effort on what you need to do to achieve the goal that you want to achieve, right? Rather than taking on a whole nother stressor. And that's priceless in all seriousness. That's what I'm talking about having that confidence team, whether it's your spouse or your girlfriend or whatever. It's like people need to be on the same page and truly believe in you so that you can then just, okay, I've got this. Now I can do the work that I need to do to achieve
Yeah.
that goal. And I love that. That's so important, Matt.
Like, I was listening to your conversation with Jean-Luc,
Mhm.
and where he said, like, before his skate, he said, like, what if it's better? Right? And going back to like what we started with fear and limiting beliefs, right? But I mean, this is a conversation I've had with myself. I have it with my employees. I have it with my family. Like, what if everything works out?
Mhm.
Because we never, it's not the default way of thinking, right? But it's
Yeah, yeah.
powerful.
Yeah. Well, and you call it manifesting or not, but it's like at the same time, it's like you're not going to win every game. You're not going to win every court battle that you have. You're not going to win
Yep.
every trial that you go to. Um, and it's like being able to have the fact that what if I win? Because I could, right? And what if I try to sell this to someone in sales or something like that? The worst thing they can do is tell me no. But what if they say yes? Well, then I just sold something, right? And so
Yeah.
if you don't ask, it's more damaging than ever asking, or it can be more damaging not to follow your dreams, right? You can always stay isolated and stay within that comfort zone and never grow. And you're never
Yeah.
going to hit your goal if you don't get on that journey. If you don't get in that car and start driving, you're never going to get to the goal that you want to achieve.
I mean, in my law firm, the biggest catalysts for growth and transformation have been personnel crises. It's been people leaving, key people. Like when we were 5 people and 2 people left within a month, and we're thinking, that's it. That's the end of the law firm. We can't take care of our clients. We can't sign up new clients. What are we going to do without these people?
Mm-hmm.
And then we end up like hiring 5 people to replace those 2 people, and it increases our capacity, and we grow, and we end up transforming the whole organization into something better and bigger. And that I've seen that happen, over 25 years, because I founded the firm in 1998. I've seen that happen half a dozen times, where now it doesn't feel like a crisis anymore. Like
Mm-hmm.
when we lose a key person who seems like irreplaceable,
Mm-hmm.
now I know that's an opportunity for growth and transformation. And I'm not afraid anymore.
Well, and you have that confidence, right? Because confidence isn't that born trait. It's something that's learned or grown from experience. It's like, I remember when Heidi and I bought our first house together, she was like all stressed out and worried. And it was like, oh, this is crazy. But to me, that wasn't my first house purchase. And
Mhm.
it was so much easier because I had that experience. And then our second house was easier, right? And so it's like having that experience really does kind of give you that boost of confidence that you need and to believe in yourself and say, you know what, I have this. And I think the other thing is, and you had mentioned Jean-Luc about talking about being in the set and going for the Olympics. And it's like when he's thinking about it, like this is the last moment we could do this, but oh, I could get injured. I could get hurt. I will let my team down. I'm going to be embarrassed. I'm going to let my family members down. But it was like the mental shift of like, but the best thing that can happen is we win. The best thing we can do is we can land this house. We can actually close on this house and we will be in our dream home, right? Or you take your business from 5 employees to 75, from X number of dollars coming into 6 figures, 8 figures, whatever it is, right? And it's like the ability to see that only comes from the very beginning where you take that chance, and based on that chance, that those chances start to build that confidence. It's almost like your
Yeah.
resume of confidence.
And I would even, yes, I mean, and I would even take it further than like what he was talking about, like, what if everything goes right? Right. But not what if everything goes right, but without being, you need to be realistic, right?
Mhm.
But I
Yes.
think going into a situation with the belief, not just like, what if everything goes right, but I know everything's going to go right. I once heard that the most powerful prayer that you can say isn't, please let me be successful, please give me this thing. It's thank you, right? Thank you, gratitude, even for something that hasn't happened yet. Because again, I really do believe a lot in mindset
Hmm.
and positivity, but not kind of like pie in the sky positivity, but like, you know, gratitude for what hasn't yet happened, but it's going to. And when you're living in that mindset, it makes that outcome, if not inevitable, I think it makes it so much more likely. And that belief, look, the belief comes with hard work, right? And that's the point. I, I, I woke up one morning and I asked myself, when did I become a workaholic? Because, when I think back
Yeah.
to myself in high school and college, like I was looking for any excuse to not work that hard,
Hmm.
right? I was kind of doing what I had to do to skate by. And then I looked back and it was like I'm working for myself. I haven't missed a day of work in years, right? The idea of not working, taking a half day off just to rest or do something fun. Like I knew people when I was working in downtown Seattle, I knew older lawyers who had their own practice. They'd go see a matinee in the afternoon.
Hmm.
And I was like,
Do they
when did
have
I
those still?
become the guy that couldn't stop working? Right. And even when I'm not working, I'm thinking about work.
Yeah.
So it's not just you. Well, if you just believe, then it will be so, right? There's a lot of work that goes into it. There's commitment and dedication, but really it starts with the mindset, right? You need to know. You need to know. I keep coming back to this because it's so important, right? And I see your logo behind you, right? And it's a
Hmm.
topographical map. But what I see is those dotted lines. In those dotted lines, I'm visualizing like the path from point A to point B.
Hmm.
And so if you know where you are and you know where you want to end up and you just every day move some amount from point A to point B,
Hmm.
like
You're
it's
eventually going to get there.
amazing. You're going to
Well,
get there.
yeah,
Of course you'll get there.
and of course, let's also say another of course, it's obvious that a straight line is going to get you to be much quicker, but life is not that way. Right? You're going
Yeah.
to run into challenges, you're going to come into barriers, you're going to I I spoke a couple weeks ago and I mentioned like on your way here, what if there was a giant boulder in front of you on the road? You wouldn't just stop and then turn around and go home. No, you would find a way around, right? You'd pull out Waze, or you'd pull out Google Maps and find a different way, and would find it there. Well, I happened to be coming down. There was a giant pile of potatoes. A potato truck had rolled over, and it was in the middle of the road for me to get to this keynote conference. And I was like, there's something you don't see every day. But life is not a straight line. Obviously, it's way better to get there faster. But you're going to hit challenges and obstacles along the way, and they might cost a little bit. They might hurt a little more. They might not be as comfortable, but or let's call it, you might not even be enjoy the view as much, right? And
Yeah.
maybe you and I are going to the same destination. If you get there faster than me, it doesn't matter, because what worked for you to get there is going to be different than the way that I get there, just as long as I continuously move along that topographical map, along that journey.
Sum of four.
Sum of four. That was a good plug, Matt. I appreciate that.
It's a great book, by the way. The author's really awesome. But there's a lot of different ways to get to the same destination.
Absolutely.
I heard a saying once, like, I used to think my life was filled with obstacles. And then I realized that was my life. Right. And the point is, again, it's a mindset thing. You can see all the unexpected things that come up as obstacles, which are, oh, what a bummer. There's this obstacle that I have to deal with. Or you could see them as opportunities. Right there. I have an opportunity to overcome this today. And
learn from it, improve something.
How awesome is that, right?
Yeah.
How awesome is that I get to overcome all this stuff and grow and learn and level up, right?
Yes,
and
that's
the next thing.
That's your self-development, though. But that goes back to the fact that you were talking about, like, you're that lifetime learner. It's like, you don't know everything, Matt. I don't know everything. And if I can associate myself with somebody who knows more than me, then I can tag along, I can ask for help, and they can take me along their journey and show me a quicker route. But it's like, we don't know everything. And so being vulnerable enough to realize, like, I don't know how to change a tire, so I better learn how to do that, right? Because there will be a time that tire goes out, and I better know how to change that tire on a road with cars coming by you. And it's like, even though it's a challenge, to be able to objectively look at it versus taking it personal or looking at it as like the worst thing ever, and, oh, I'm the victim, I'm falling back, I'm going down that rabbit hole of where anger starts and victimization and resentment happens. It's like, look at it as a learning experience. Like, how do I grow from that? I want to ask you this, and this is kind of the whole idea of the podcast, is the sense that it's like, when you see those things and you look back, do you say, how did I make it through that? Like, how did I not use that as like, oh, I closed the doors of the law firm? Like, you didn't get into Yale the first time. How is it that you apply it again? Because I think every one of us has been rejected some way or another, and it feels like the world's against you, and it's the end of the world. I'm not going to be able to get into Yale. What kept you moving forward to get into Yale?
It's a really good question. I mean, what kept me moving forward? It was just like, it's so simple, right? And I think everybody, if you ask everyone, like, on a base level, what do you want, right? And it's like, I want what I want, and I don't know that you can define always why you want what you want. But if it's real, if you believe it and you want it, then you don't let anything get in your way. And I guess that is, going back to one of the first questions you asked me, I guess that is something I've always had. There's no really good rational reason. Why did I feel so strongly I wanted to go to Yale? Right? I mean, I could have gone to Columbia or Penn or another Ivy League school, or I don't know, Duke or UCLA. But I had visited the campus. I felt something from being in the physical place, and from the style of the architecture and the history that was in the stones and in the earth. And I just felt like, this is an important, powerful place, and I need to be a part of it. So I went to a big public high school in suburban New York, and I was just outside of the top 10% of my graduating class, and it wasn't good enough
Mm-hmm.
to get in. So I didn't give up, right? I did not give up. I looked at what are my options? How can I get into Yale? And I found a program in a community college that was designed, it basically copied the first 2 years of Columbia University's core curriculum,
Mm-hmm.
with great professors and small class sizes and one-on-one mentoring, which is the program is actually called the MTS program, was the Mentor Talented Student Program.
Love
And the
that.
whole point was to help students who were kind of on the borderline get into these top schools. So I found the right program, I got the right mentor, I did the hard work, and 2 years later, I was able to transfer into Yale. Now, transferring into Yale is a whole nother thing. And, I was a confused kid. I still didn't really know who I was. So now I got there and I'm in. And the thing about Yale and maybe every school, I don't know, but it's like it's a whole lot of type A personalities. It's a whole bunch of leaders that are going to this school, and everybody wants to be a leader. But
Sure.
all the student organizations, they all have this hierarchy, right? Where you start out as like on the board your freshman year, and then you're the treasurer your sophomore year, and then you're vice president, and then you're president. So I'm coming in as a junior, and I'm like some outsider from a single parent public
Right.
school teacher from community college, and there's all these people who I felt, you talk about imposter syndrome, right? I felt like an outsider. And
Mm-hmm.
I was so far behind on that hierarchy that again, I felt lost. I felt frustrated. Like if I can't be the president of this or the leader of that, then like, what am I even doing here? And
Mm-hmm.
so I really struggled for my 2 years at Yale, but I got the same Yale diploma on my wall as every other Yale graduate, and it was a good education. It did open doors.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, it got me into UW Law School, which got me here in Seattle to start my law firm practicing law.
And it
And
introduced us because we were
right,
able to meet each other. See, it opened
for
up so
sure.
many more doors. Well, I think you hit on something that I'd really like people to hear is that just because you finally got in, it didn't mean the world owed everything to you. You still had to work once you got in there. Getting into Yale wasn't like, oh, okay, now I have it made. It's like that was just the first stepping stone. And it's like, now what? Right. And then you had to earn your degree. You had to earn the respect of everybody that you went to school with. You had to come in as the junior who was really a freshman. And it was like you had to put your time and earn your sweat equity within that too. It wasn't just like, oh, the world owes me everything now, right?
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny. It is the key to success, but it's also like somewhat pathological, right? That I'm never done. I've never
Mm-hmm.
arrived. Like I've never made it. And so I'm constantly revising my goals. Because I remember the first time it was from that book Traction.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the exercises in that book is to set a 10-year goal, right? And then work backwards. So you look, where do you need to be in 5 years to be on track? And then 1 year, and then 90 days. And so you're
Mm-hmm.
working in 90-day segments. So a big, giant, audacious goal is just a bunch of smaller goals that are stacked together,
Yes.
right? But the problem is the first time I went through that exercise and I set 10-year goals, and I thought they were crazy, ridiculous, outrageous, aggressive goals. And then after 3 years, I had achieved 90% of those 10-year
Oh, that's
goals.
awesome. Right.
So the biggest limiting factor in me achieving those goals is my belief that it
Yes.
was possible.
Yeah. Well, and it taught you, well, I'm assuming that that one experience, like when you started to see that, then you started to use that with your law firm too.
Well, I started with the law firm,
Sure.
and then I've tried to transition it to my personal life. Look, as the law firm grows, my role in it has changed, right? So I was just a lawyer, and I was a lawyer and a manager,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now I'm trying to figure out what it means to kind of be a CEO, right? That I want the law firm to reflect my values and my vision. I want every client's experience to be, if not identical, at least very similar to what it would be, if they were working directly with me 15 years ago,
Sure. Sure.
right? But you can't do everything all at once. And I'm also now I'm trying to use these tools in my personal life as well, right? Like we have one son. He's going to go to college in less than 3 years, and so now I'm having these conversations with Beth regularly. Like, what do we want our life to look like in 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and what can we do now to help bring that into reality? If that
Fruition.
means
Right.
right. If that means what do we want? Do we want to travel more? Right? What do we want our life to look like together? And whatever it is, you can apply. It's not just business success. It's
Yes.
not just money in the
Yeah.
bank. It's
That's your mindset.
ultimately it's living a meaningful and fulfilling life, and hopefully having some impact on the people around you, your community, and the world.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't do it passively. You can't just be a pinball and let the world bounce you around, because if that's what you're doing, you could work so hard just spinning your wheels and
Yeah.
never make any progress. You
Any
like you
traction.
need to be in control. That's the only way you get traction.
Well, and I love that you had mentioned that it's like I want to hit that a little bit deeper, is that it's okay to have these goals and then not to manipulate them, because you can change along the way. I want people to understand that it's like, just because every assessment test I took said that I was going to be a teacher. And I was like, well, I don't want to be a teacher. I saw
Yeah.
lean on me and stand and deliver. Like, I don't want to be a teacher. Right. But that's what I do. I'm a teacher. I just do it on a different platform. And I had to learn to adapt mentally and physically, and to be able to pivot. Because if there is a challenge in front of me, or it's like, oh, well, I'm not going to be a teacher. Oh, but I can be a keynote speaker and speak to thousands of people every single day, or whatever. Or I can have a platform like a podcast and be able to share that message. And it's like, for the audience to understand that it's okay to pivot anytime, as long as if it's that goal that you want to achieve, you just keep moving towards it. And maybe it'll look a little differently in the future, but as long as it's something that you are passionate about, you're going to eventually reach that.
Yeah. The only thing that you can't do, and I learned this from you in the gym,
Mm.
right, is you don't give up. Like, you don't say I can't. Right. When I was working out with you and I said I can't, you made me do push-ups.
Can't means
Right.
won't means push up. That was my martial arts instructor's like little motto, for sure.
Right. And so you find a way.
Mm-hmm.
You find a way and this is funny, because I was thinking about you, and I was thinking about, some of the questions you ask in the podcast, because like when you're working out, when you're trying to get bigger, you're trying to get stronger, right? You lift to failure,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I've heard you ask some of your guests, right? Like, what does failure mean, right? And in the gym, like, lifting to failure is success,
Sure.
right? You want to keep going until you literally can't go anymore, and that's how you push
Grow.
beyond your boundaries. That's
Yeah.
how you grow.
Mm-hmm. That's thank you for using the old school training method that I shared with you. And it's like, but I think that the important part of that is that the gym mentality of like working out and pushing yourself, whether that's dieting or whether that's lifting and doing resistance training, it's like that applies in everything that we do, whether it's financial, whether it's scaling a business, whether it's following your dreams or starting a business. It's like, failure is just the going as far as you can to learn as much as you can. And that is true success.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't hit all the goals. Look, a personal goal for me, kind of ever since I've known you, is, I'd like to have a six pack. I'd like to be able to see my lower abs. And, I'm 55, and I've got a pretty nice four pack right now, but like, those lower abs are still hidden. And I've, diet and lifestyle and exercise, and,
They're under
I've
there. I know they're under there.
they're under there. I know they're solid underneath. And so, I've managed to get myself down to, and those scales lie, right? I mean, I did the DEXA scan and I thought I was
I
like,
talk to him
I
all
was
the
like,
time. I'm like, just
I'm
tell him
like,
what he wants to hear.
I'm like, how can I be 13% body fat and not see my abs? And I did the DEXA
Sure.
scan. It's like, no, you're 19%. It's like,
Hmm.
oh, okay. So I need to hit it harder. Like I need to keep going. And if that's my goal, I will achieve it.
Hmm.
Um, it might take more time than I thought it would,
Hmm.
but if that's what I want, then I'll get there. And it's
And you
it's
can't
totally
compare yourself.
separate from like money or business or
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
And that's the whole idea, is that you can't compare yourself to your competitor, or you can't compare yourself to your younger self, because things change and you're going to have different challenges that you face. But it's like, for me, the way that I have an 8-pack is going to be different than for you. Right. And it's like the way that I'm going to scale a law firm, for example, would be totally different in the Spokane market versus the Seattle market.
Yeah.
Right. And how you do that is your own personal journey. It's absolutely, the way that you get to your 8-pack is going to be a different journey. I can help you. I can show you along the way. That's the great thing about a mentor or a coach or a trainer or somebody that helps you along the way. But it's like, it's your own personal journey, and it will have road bumps and challenges and thorns and glass and things that you run across. But it's like, and you might fall off of that train. But the point is that if you want to get back on that train, you can do it. You just have to want to.
And it's so cliche also to say that it's not about the destination, it's about the journey.
Mm-hmm.
But like, we have we have such limited time in this life, right? And we do have a lot of say over like how we live it, how we enjoy it. Like the journey should be
The
enjoyable.
enjoyment. Yeah, 100%. And you are who you are today. Your law firm, your relationship, where you live with your family, where you are at with your friendships and things, are all because of the failures that you've experienced, the mistakes that you've made, the loss that you've had, the chances that you've been too afraid to take, but you've stepped outside of that box and you took that chance, right? And the risk that you took. You are who you are because of all of those things, and because of all the people that you know, all of those little moments and times and you will never know when or where you're going to meet someone, whether that's a personal trainer like me, who will give you one little nugget that can help change your life. You might have a mentor that tells you something that's like, oh, you might hear a podcast where you hear Matt Dubin talk about one little thing where you're afraid to take your business, your sole proprietorship, your entrepreneurial journey, your law firm, and take one little nugget that you hear today and you're like, "Oh, that's what I want to take. That's what I want to do with my life, because I can do it, because it's my own personal journey."
So I'm hearing you say this, and I just want to take a moment and thank you, right? Because yes, like I met you in the gym, right? We started out, you were my personal trainer, but you very quickly became so much more than that. And it started out just an hour a week in the gym, like
Mm-hmm.
talking about strength and fitness,
Mm-hmm.
but the positivity and the resilience and the mindset that you always had, regardless of whatever was going on in your life at the time, it's learnable, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's contagious because
Transferable.
it's you see how fun it is, and like you consume life and in a really positive way, and it's contagious. And so I mean, if I haven't taken the moment to thank you, because it has been a huge influence on me. And in times when I've been down and I go and you help me push beyond my limits in one way, like it's not just compartmentalized, right?
Mm-hmm.
You start to believe like you can push behind your limits in all the different ways.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I thank you. Thank you. The sad thing is that's completely felt reciprocated, because you, like with my book, when I wrote my book, you were the first person who was like, Blue, go after it, do this, apply this. You and I would brainstorm. And I think this is imperative, that if I was to say something to people right now, is that it is surrounding yourself around people who not only believe in you and are your support system, but that can teach you these things and like support you, because it's like a mastermind program. I mean, it really is. Like, you don't have to join a mastermind group to get this. You have that already at your fingertips. It's the friends that have a different career than you. It's the
Yep.
teachers that you had. It's the coaches that you had in school. It's like, reach out to those people that have made an impact on your life and ask them questions. And because if you're not learning from them, maybe they can learn something from you. And it's like, it builds our community into a stronger position. It's like having that confidence team has been imperative for me to achieve and learn what I've achieved.
Yeah, I mean, even more, like surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, who are
Mm-hmm.
more successful than you, more accomplished than you, who, because like the saying, like you are who you surround yourself with, it's absolutely true. And, if you surround yourself with the kind of people that you want to be,
Mm-hmm.
it makes it a whole lot easier to get there.
Well, yeah, and you have a community. You have a community of people that know your strengths and weaknesses, know how to push you, right? And know how to like pull that lever and maybe challenge you or get you to do things that you didn't want to do in a positive way, or get you to do things that you didn't believe that you could do. And I think that's what really gets people to move mountains. Right. And that's a great leader. That's a great mentor. That's a great instructor or a coach or a friend. And that you have been that friend for me, Matt, not only in the gym, but through everything. You're a prime example of somebody that I can learn from that has already gone through the fire of being a parent. Right. And it's like, I learned from you, and I have had countless discussions of like, how do I talk to my daughter? How do I talk to my son? Because you've been there, and and just being vulnerable enough to ask for help and having that kind of a relationship with you is is so important, and to have a diverse group of people that you can reach out to, that mastermind group of people that can
Yeah.
help you if they're smarter, they have that experience.
It's really hard to continually reinvent the wheel for every challenge that you face, because none of us are unique, right?
Mm-hmm.
None of us are facing a challenge that nobody has ever faced before. So,
Oh, I love that.
find,
Yeah.
right, finding people who have already overcome that challenge, and then you learn from them and you put your own flavor on it,
Yes,
right? You
that's
put
your
your own
own
spin on
journey.
it.
Yeah, because it's going to be different for me than it was for you. 100%.
But I mean, that's essential I mean, again, I've been part of a law firm owner mastermind group for 12 years. And I always find someone who's 2 or 3 years ahead of me in
Mm-hmm.
growth, right? Because they've just gone through all the challenges that I'm about to face.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just pick their brain. I copy what worked. I learn from their mistakes and try and do it better. And there's no ego. There's no pride of ownership. Like, it's not my. I mean, I say with. I mean, I think probably excessive modesty, right? I haven't had a single original idea in my business. Well, I'm sure I
Sure.
have, right?
Sure.
But my original ideas are taking the experiences of others, the successes or failures from others that I'm in relationship with,
Mm-hmm.
and figuring out how can I apply it efficiently, successfully to my situation
Yeah.
to grow or to be better or to break through whatever limits that I'm experiencing.
Yeah. Well, and same with martial arts, for example. It's like Shotokan karate is not the only style of karate, right? Like then you have Goju-ryu, you have Kempo, you have all these different styles, and it's like that technique really works. Maybe I can apply that in tournaments in Shotokan, or maybe judo can be applied in this too, because we do grips and we do like arm locks and things. It's like there's no right or wrong way of doing something, and if I can pick and choose little things that make me grow and I feel like are actually helping me, they're bringing sustenance to my ability, then you're golden. And it's like, and then to continuously do that, to continuously learn from other people, just makes you that stronger person. And then one day you look back and you're like, wow, I've done a lot, or I've achieved a lot, and it's because of all of those moments in time that we've had.
It's funny because I mean I hear you talking about like continuously learning and continuously moving towards your goals and continuously revising your goals and, moving towards them every day. And it in a way, it sounds exhausting, right? It's like I'm always working, I'm
Right.
always trying, I'm always doing
You're
that.
the
But in
workaholic, not me.
reality, but no, but in reality,
Yeah.
it's not. It's
Fun.
energizing, right? It's
Yeah.
empowering. It's got to be fun. It's got to be fun. And again, we have the fact that we are wherever we are, we're in a position to face these challenges and overcome them in community, with creativity, with effort, and the feeling of self-worth, of accomplishment, of pride when you get there and knowing that there's something else for
Oh,
you to do.
it inspires us and it motivates you. Like when you do well at a job and you get praise for it, whether monetarily or like fame or a pat on the back, it's like it makes you feel good and it makes you want to keep going, right? It keeps that drive moving forward. And finding what your currency is, what makes you inspire, what inspires you or motivates you to keep moving forward. That's your own personal journey. Like what inspires me is going to be different for you, but it's like when I do understand my currency, what works for me to move me, when I get that hit of dopamine of that currency, it's like that's what keeps me driven. That's what
Yeah.
drives me forward to keep moving forward, even when I hit a challenge or even when I hit a roadblock. And I mean, I think you hit the head on the nail on that one. If if I was if I was to ask you what your hardest no was that you've ever heard, and it could be back to your childhood days, like what is the hardest no that you've ever experienced that hurt the most?
um, I was probably 8 years into my law practice. I had never hired anyone. I was doing it all by myself. And I had hit a wall. I had grown as much as I could grow. And
Time wise, like you only had so many hours in a day that you could
right,
work,
right.
right?
I couldn't take on any more cases. I couldn't represent more clients. I couldn't make more money than what I was making. I was working harder and harder and harder, but like there's a limit to how much one person could do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was and particularly in my business, it fluctuates, right? You have lean months, you have good months. It's not like a steady paycheck month after month. And so things were a little tight. I approached my in-laws with a lot of humility and asked them for a loan. And I felt for sure, if anyone believes in me, like they're going to believe in me, they're going to give me this loan. I'm going to reinvest in the law firm, and
Yeah.
somehow I'll get through this situation. I'll pay them back, and everything will be great. And they said it wasn't exactly no, but it was. I mean, it was like a splash of cold water in my face. They said, "Well, we don't want to lend you money if you're just going to go bankrupt. So, like, we want you to open up your books to our financial advisor. We want to do a deep dive into your business and make sure that it's viable and that you're not throwing good money after bad." And
Yeah.
it was humiliating, and I was angry. I was offended that
Offended. I
they
was just going to say offended.
like. I was like, "How dare you?" Of course, I'm the one asking them for money,
Sure.
right?
Sure. Right.
So we did. Again, with humility, I went through the whole process. I handed over my books to their financial advisor, and he looked it over. I met, we talked about everything, and he came back at the end. He said, "You've got a viable business model." And I was, kind of indignant. I was like, "Well, thank you very much. I know that already." He said, "The problem is you can't you've hit your capacity. You can't grow unless you hire help."
Mm-hmm.
And we already talked about my limiting beliefs and my fear about hiring other people and being responsible for them. He said, "You'll never grow much beyond where you are now unless you bring in help so that you can leverage your own time and your own abilities." And so my in-laws actually agreed after this whole process that they would,
And your due diligence, like having to give
and
over,
of course,
fork everything over.
they're smart, right? It's why
Mm-hmm.
they had money and I didn't. Is after their due diligence was we're going to lend you money, and we're also going to help you hire your first employee.
Scale
And they
up.
actually made the very generous offer that they would cover payroll and payroll related expenses for 1 year for me to hire an assistant. And we went out and found an amazing assistant. And within 6 months, I had probably tripled my revenues. And I told them, you can stop paying now. And, within, I think, 2 or 3 years, I had paid back the loan. But that going through that, I mean, the embarrassment and the
Sure.
shame and the frustration of of really like being, I don't know, examined under a fine tooth comb
Yeah.
and questioned, right? Like my ability was
Yeah.
being questioned. And I knew I had ability. I knew I had a good business model, but I didn't know why I was stuck. I didn't know why I was banging my head. And going through this whole process ultimately kind of unlocked the key to growth for me.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately that person left and went to law school. I hired another assistant who then passed the bar and was licensed as an attorney. And then I just thought, well, I'd be a fool not to use her as an attorney. So now we have two attorneys and no assistant. So I had to go hire another assistant. And that started the snowball
Snowball.
rolling to where we are now.
And I will attest that you cannot go to anywhere in Seattle and not see a Dubin Law Group sign on a billboard or on a bus driving down the street. You definitely own the mark on that. But it took failing, being humiliated, but looked at through a fine tooth, or a microscope on trying to find everything. And it took you to not quit and throw your hand up and say, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to take what they said and apply and learn from it and then prove to them that I can do it. And you took that chance. You stepped out of your comfort zone and you took a risk. And now you have an absolutely successful business. And I am so proud of you. I am so proud of you. You are the man, mister. Um, I want to know, if you were to tell the audience one thing today, or your past self, the one thing that you would tell yourself how to overcome a no, what would that be?
I had an idea of how I was going to answer this question, but I think it's a little bit different. It's believe in yourself. I think when I look back in my life, the biggest thing that ever held me back, and sometimes held me back for years
Mm-hmm.
from reaching my full potential, is a lack of belief in myself and my ability to get there, to achieve my goals, whatever they are. So, I mean, goal setting is goal setting is important. I'm a huge believer in goals. So, but in order to set goals, you need to take another step back. And sorry, it's a long-winded answer, right?
Mm.
You need to know yourself. And it goes back to that question that guy asked me, like, what do you want? Not what do you think society thinks you should want, right?
Sure.
Right, like what do you really authentically in the heart of hearts, what do you want for your life? And it can take years to figure that out. That's the hardest part of the journey, I think, is figuring out, what do I really, really want? And yes, it can change, you can pivot,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
really, like when you get real, it's going to be different for everybody. It's unique, but it has to be real. It has to be authentic. When you find that thing that you really, truly want for yourself, for your life, for your family, then you've got to believe in your ability that nothing can stop you. When you have that belief, then whatever no's come up, they're trivial, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're that potato truck that you just find a way around, because what else are you going to do? You're going to give up on
No.
like on your deepest desire for life?
Hmm.
You just, it's not even an option at that point.
I love that. It's not even an option. It's like it doesn't matter if your boat sinks, then you swim back and you build another boat and you keep on moving forward. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter if that. I love that. I love that. Well, where can be? I guess you're this wealth of knowledge, and I know that you're a part of mastermind groups. But where can people connect with you? Where can they find out more about you? And if people have questions about
Yeah.
attorney questions with personal injury, because I know that happens. I hear car accidents all the time out here. So it's like, how can people find more out about you and your law group?
So again, Dubin Law Group is our website is dubinlawgroup.com. It's filled with lots of information, blog post information about it. We're a personal injury firm. So all kinds of injuries, the whole process, how to protect yourself and your family with auto insurance. I wrote a book called Maximizing Your Injury Claim,
Mm-hmm.
and that's available on Amazon as well. And it's partly autobiographical. It's partly about,
It's a good read,
the whole
and it
personal
teaches you
injury.
so much. Everyone should know anything about that, because we've all been in a car accident, and it's like, is this my fault? Is it their fault? What are my rights? What are the insurance companies my friend, or are they like not my friend? And whatever, what
People don't
people
want to
don't know.
know. People don't want to know. You offer it to them for free, and they're like, "No, I don't want to jinx myself."
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you need to be prepared, right? People don't know about different insurance coverages and how to protect your family and the whole claims process. They never find out about it until they're in the middle of it, and then it's
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming. And we can help. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you need an attorney, go there. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on TikTok. Dubin Law Group. You can find us on any of those platforms, and
But you
you
also
know,
offer so much information. It's like for anybody just interested on things about insurance and about car accidents, it's not like you have to be in it or something like that. It's like you just offer all of this information so that we have more tools if we ever are in an accident.
for sure. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I want people to know. I want people to know. And one, it's totally an aside. It's not navigating no, but I just want to. I mean, anybody who's watching this or listening to it, you need to maximize your uninsured motorist coverage. We are so careful to protect ourselves and have insurance and everything, but there's a lot of uninsured or underinsured drivers out there, and nobody tells you that this uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage, UIM or U coverage through your car insurance,
Mm-hmm.
that protects you and your family if somebody without insurance hits you and
Mm-hmm.
injures you. Drunk driver in a stolen car, or a kid who has minimum insurance, or they let their insurance lapse and they have no insurance. That's, you can protect yourself with that. And
It's up
it's
to
just
you.
one tidbit of information.
Mm-hmm.
Like, check your car insurance right now, and if you don't have uninsured motorist, or if you don't have enough, max it out, whatever you can afford, because like it can happen in an instant, and it's totally out of your control. You could do everything right, and all of a sudden your life changes. And at least if you have this coverage, there's some money to help you get through
Mm-hmm. And I've been there. I've didn't have uninsured motorist coverage, and it's like I was in a car accident, and the other person had no insurance, and it was like I was left on the line, and I had to take care of everything. And you told me one time there was a statistic in Washington State of how many people don't have insurance driving.
Yeah, it's an old statistic, so I don't know if it's
Okay,
still exactly accurate, but it was roughly 20% of drivers in Washington have no insurance, and
so
another
even if it's
35.
their fault, and you get hit, there's
Yep.
nothing coming your way if you don't have any uninsured
You
motorist
could
coverage.
you could sue them and take them to court and get a judgment for $1 million against them. But if they have no insurance, you're not going to get any money, right? And another 35% or so of drivers in Washington have the minimum coverage, which is $25,000. So if you're hurt in an accident, if you're seriously hurt and an ambulance has to take you to the hospital and they do an MRI,
There's the
you already
25.
have 25,000, right? And
That's
then you might
horrible.
be in treatment for a year. And so it's really scary. And so just like do what you can do to protect yourself and your family. Drive carefully, drive defensively, but there's still knuckleheads out there who have no insurance, right? And you need to protect yourself.
That's a great takeaway. And I would suggest also definitely look into that with your insurance coverage. And if you have any questions, definitely reach out to Matt and on his website and things, because there's a plethora of information that's available. And I know that you specifically speak to people sometimes too. So reach out to him.
Sure.
I know he's always open for that. And Matt, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for bringing your mind to this, because I think you really opened up a lot of potential to people of like, taking that chance and stepping outside of that comfort zone. And I am absolutely blessed to have you in my life and you being in my corner, because when I'm backed up against the wall, you're always that person who's always been, Blue, I believe in you too, and you got this.
And I always will be. And congratulations on this podcast and on your success as a speaker. I think it's just the natural evolution of, all your life experience, and you are so inspirational. And, I'm really excited about watching this phase of your life continue to kind of develop and blossom. It's really cool.
Well, I love that, Matt. And I love that you took a chance and you jumped on, because this is a learning experience and I'm having so much fun learning from other people, because like I said, and you said, all of our journeys are different. And so if I can get like some nugget from somebody else, that's just something that makes me grow and makes me a better person. And you make a difference in this world. And I love you. And thank you for being on, mister.
Thanks, Blue. I love you too.
All right, Matt. Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Navigating No. I hope you found today's conversation just as inspiring and insightful as I did. We'd love your help to make it even better. So, if you enjoyed this episode, we would love to hear your feedback. And if you think someone else could benefit from hearing it, please share it and help us spread optimism and positivity. We release a new interview every Monday, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Thanks for listening.